Kathy Burke, who's coming today with Pippa, her friend. Kathy loves sea bass. There's loads of things she can't actually eat. So we really thought about the menu. She's having crispy barbecued sea bass. We've made a summer herb cream. I've been juicing herbs like parsley and chives and oregano and bay, actually, is the other thing. And they're really, really beautiful. We've reduced some cream. We're making leeks and spinach pressed, and they're going to be dressed with roast garlic and roasted lemon. And we've got a potato rusty on. So I'm just getting the barbecue ready so I can get the sea bass on and crisped up. And then when she gets here, I will just flash it and finish it.
And the drink that I'm making today is like fruit, vegetable, spice juice. So the spice is ginger. Press the ginger in the juicer. Quite a bit of it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like a bit of spice there.
I need the juice sous chef
Mum
today.
was my juice sous chef, my juice soup. The weird thing about having Kathy over for lunch is that it doesn't feel weird. But actually, when Mum went on her podcast the other day and loved it so much, it was the first time we met.
We've known who each other is. And then the other day I did her podcast and we had the most brilliant time. It was literally the longest conversation we'd ever had together. Yeah. It did feel like we already knew each other properly, and we are tribally the same.
Yes, tribally connected. I just think she's brilliant and smart, and what I've loved is watching her make this somewhat unexpected segue into being a broadcaster, and I do really want to talk to her about that today if she sees herself like that, because she's one of the best and it's not her chosen profession.
She's one of those people I just really admire her a lot. You must be Pippa. So happy to have you in our house.
It smells amazing already.
Welcome to our house. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Who have you brought with you?
So, this is my very good friend, Pippa Brown. We met working on a job.
Kathy was directing it.
Yeah, but I don't really like talking about that
No, but
job.
I'll tell you what, the first thing you ever said, though, was when you came to the office.
Yeah.
We were, like, saying hello, and it was, I was really low down in production and trying to, like, make sure Kathy was okay, and it was the first, like, big thing I'd done as well. And I was, like, said to her, where do you want to be? And she goes, oh, I don't know, I guess Cornwall, because I love the sea, but not for a few years. And I was like, oh, I meant, where do you want to sit? Like, where do you want to be?
Not retirement.
Yeah. I was like, but then we laughed.
Oh, that's so nice. And were you quite relieved? Were you nervous
To meet Kathy.
Was it a bit...
No.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, of course I was nervous to meet Kathy, because I grew up watching Kathy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was nervous, but also, like, she's immediately disarmingly lovely.
Yeah.
And
this
funny.
is true. Do you two argue?
Do we argue?
Do you ever get on each other's nerves?
Oh, we've definitely had a row, but we're not sort of bickery.
Have you ever not spoken?
Yeah.
Like, for a prolonged time?
We did, the longest we ever did was a month.
She wasn't talking to me.
No, you weren't. I'm talking about another time.
Oh, God,
then.
it's going to kick off.
Can you feel it? Feel the tension rising.
Isn't that rather nice?
I'm from a single parent family. I'm my mother, Andi Oliver's only child, and her daughter. So it's like it was gonna get spicy with us being, only 20 years older than me. Growing up in that way, you're such a team that you drive each other completely crazy. And I always wondered what it would be like with more people in the house, siblings, a dad. Maybe it would ease it a bit because it's just like two people. Yeah. But now that I'm older, it's just this glorious thing that I know has come from the particular way that we brought each other up.
Yeah.
Kathy, you don't have siblings.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
yeah.
you do have
I've got
siblings?
2 older brothers.
I didn't
do
know
you?
that.
Yeah. 2 big brothers.
What was your relationship like with them when you grew up?
Well, it was very sort of different to normal people's because we lost our mum. Our mum died. I was about 2, so I don't really remember her. But my brothers were sort of 10 and 8, so it was sort of a massive blow to them. But it also meant that they had to grow up because this is the 60s. Okay. So there was no sort of counselling or any sort of help or anything like that.
Really?
And the boys were just expected to get on with it. And
was your dad there?
Dad was there sort of in and out. Do you know what I mean? Dad had quite a few problems and stuff, so he was around, but not all the time. So I always sort of felt like, you know, they were like my mum and dad.
Right.
As well, you know.
Your brothers?
Yeah.
Right.
And John, always, who's the eldest, did the majority of the cooking.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
What did he? What kind of stuff?
Well, it was all very sort of, we're Irish heritage. So it was very sort of what Dad wanted.
Potatoes.
Potatoes. Just potatoes. Meat. Lots of meat. Sort of boiled bacon and cabbage and potatoes. Lots of stews.
This is my dream menu, Mum, isn't it? This is so my kind of food.
Lots of mince,
yeah.
because it was cheap.
Did you eat like family tables and stuff, or did he just cook and you grabbed it as people were passing through? What was it?
Oh, no, we did all sort of sit at the same time.
So how old was John then? He was like...
So he was like 10, 11 when he was cooking. It's amazing. You know, and I look back, it's just like sort of astonishing that they just got on with it.
Because they had to.
Yeah. And Barry would do things like the laundrette and, you know, stuff like that.
Goodness.
But then once I was big enough, then I was doing my chores as well.
How old was big enough?
Oh, sort of 6, 7.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right in
yeah. So I'd be, doing the laundry and stuff. But I also got fostered for a bit, but on a sort of weird Monday to Friday basis.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? And then,
I didn't know they could do that.
And then, well, this was the 60s.
See,
I think
wanted.
it was just, it was just a bit different then.
And then did you go back to your family at the weekends?
Because I was only fostered by a lady that lived in the flats across the road.
I guess that was the 60s version of kind of community support.
Yeah. Yes, because it was very much about the church. Right. So we're at the Catholic Church, you know, so that was sort of who was helping and social workers and
I guess
stuff.
that just took the pressure off of a few days a week so that everybody could catch their breath.
I think so.
Right,
I mean, I was a nutcase, so I just think they were just glad of a bit of peace and quiet.
Even that little, were you quite chatty?
I was very chatty. I was forever being told, stop being so bold.
Really?
Because I would chat and ask questions, and we did a little reunion, little gang of us, women that were all at the same primary school together. There's only 6 or 7 of us, you know. But when we first did a reunion, I think we were in our 30s, and we were all talking about when we were kids and all that. And then one of them, Bernice, turned around and said, Kathy, all you're remembering is the food. Because I just remembered what I ate in everyone's houses.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
I love that. But, you know, sometimes those meals are the way you latch on to a memory.
Yeah, because it's connection, isn't it? And that must have been when you felt happy and, like, safe and connected.
I think I was really sort of food obsessed. I mean, it's so weird being an adult and being quite a fussy eater. Because when I was a kid, I think I would have eaten anything. I would have tried anything. And I would lie, like terrible lies. And like my brother John, there was once John started to go to secondary school. Well, once the two of them were at secondary school, and I was still at the primary school.
Yeah.
Before he would go to school, he would take me down the road to Mrs. Riley, whose daughter Mary was still at the primary school. So Mary would take me to school, but John would get me up, give me my breakfast, and then take me over down the road, and then he'd get on the bus. And then one day he took me there, and Mrs. Riley scolded him and said, John, I know you've got a lot on, but it's very, very cold, and you must put some breakfast inside that child before you leave the house. And the way John looked at me, because he was giving me breakfast. But then I'd arrive at the Rileys, and once he was gone, she'd go, have you had your breakfast? And I'd go, no. So I was forever, I mean, right up to, I remember when I was 16 and I was at Further Education College, and I became great mates with my mate Michael Winslow. He was from a single parent, his mum, Gloria, and they lived in down Old Street. So, you know, it got to a point where I was sort of rocking up at Michael's after college.
To get a little snack.
Yeah, really. But I never forget one day, just when I turned up and Gloria just went, I haven't got enough food for you.
Kathy, no more.
She was like, oh my God.
I can't, you know, because you're a single parent. And she's trying to feed this growing boy, and he's become mates with this. All right, you know, it's a skinhead and just sort of stood there.
Skinhead.
Oh, what are you having?
A really hungry skinhead.
Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
But yeah, I used to bunk off school quite a lot. This was secondary school.
Yeah.
And I just used to get on the bus. And I would just, you know, when you're a kid though, like even like a young teenager, I would just talk to other kids that I didn't know, go, all right, you know. They'd be, you know, you go to the shops. Oh, yeah. Have you got money? They'd be like, yeah. And I'd go, oh, I'd love some crisps. Honestly. I remember even in the school holidays, I would go, because we lived in these flats, you know, sort of old mansion block, and so there was loads of families in there, people that I'd never met, you know, and you'd never even seen. And I just, you know, the summer holidays, and I'd be feeling hungry, and I think, I've never been in that block. Yeah, I would just go in and just knock on someone's door.
Literally, and go, what kind of food?
And go, are you having your dinner? You know, I mean, isn't it outrageous? I don't think my brothers ever did anything like that. Would never cross their minds.
And they were like, where is she? Probably at somebody's house. Where did you grow up, Pippa?
Yeah, Pippa, where are you from? London?
No, so my dad was in the army. So we were sort of in Germany. I was born in Belgium, then we were in Germany, so I was like 17. So we lived in Berlin for sort of 2 years before and 2 years after the wall came down, which was amazing.
Very intense time to be
Yeah,
there.
it was really exciting. Like, I remember my mum, I missed ballet practice to go and drive down to stand on the wall.
As it was coming down?
Well, the day they announced it was coming down.
Oh, amazing.
So we drove down, and then she was, like, pulled up onto the wall by these people, and then she put her hand down to pull me up. And I just remember being pushed up by these people, and then I wet myself.
That's excellent. That's an excellent story.
Really exciting and terrifying.
Yeah.
So you just, you know, that's what happens. Your body just goes...
And then when did you move to London?
We moved to London when I was 17, to Mill Hill.
That's the kind of area I always wanted to grow up in, though, like North London, like, I don't know, like structure, families. I grew up in, like, Portobello in the 80s. It was just chaos. Mill Hill felt like the opposite of chaos to me, places like that. I was like, can we just go live where things are really calm?
Miquita once bought me a little stainless steel saucepan for Christmas, because that's what she wanted our house to look like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And she would try to get me like a cardi. I was like, I'm not wearing that.
I wanted it to be white with like Venetian blinds. My mum was like, why do you want us to live in a shit office?
What is this about?
I was like,
She'd show me pictures and I'd go, that's not a house, it's an office. That's where
see
people
this?
work.
I want to live like this.
Where were you getting those ideas from?
Weird blind catalogues. And they would be like, it would look like this in your office.
Like rubber plants, like that big
And
one.
that
You'd have
plant, I
loved
would
that,
love
wouldn't
that. I was
you?
like, we should have a green plant. But also I was like, we should be white and I should be blonde. You know,
Yeah, there was
it was about a lot of other things.
Fitting into a picture, do you know what I mean? There was a whole period of time where I wasn't allowed to go to the school gate.
Yeah, sorry, that's because you were wearing electric blue furs.
It wasn't furs,
And
it
singing,
was
and singing,
a coat.
and singing, peace in the valley, peace in the city, peace in the soul. I was
really into
has she lost her
And
mind?
I had like a leopard skin fur hat as well.
After that, I was like, banned.
But did all your friends not want to hang out with
Yes,
her?
Her mates loved me.
and
And
that-
she was like, whatever, you talk to her.
And that's how it's always been.
I had to wait on the corner. Down the road. I used to wait on the corner down the road. I went into the Tabernacle once to pick her up from a birthday party and she ran across going, no! I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I wasn't allowed in here either. I was like, do you know what I mean?
And look at how all that fabulousness has paid off. But this is our particular, you know, this is our very nuanced, niche version of family. I was wondering what family means to you guys, because we all seem to have extremely different
siblings, Pippa.
I've got a sister who's 2 years older. Because you're at school, we didn't really grow up a lot together.
Right.
And then holidays are like, you just fuck off with your friends.
Yeah. You used to be able to do that, didn't you?
Yeah.
In school holidays,
Yeah.
just literally go off for the day. You'd
Yeah.
see your
Yeah,
parents
it
in
was
the morning.
amazing.
And they'd be like, all right, off you
Cycle
go.
off.
And
I
you're
love
off
big
on your
rides.
bike
Yeah,
or your
yeah.
scooter.
Yeah.
We'd like cycle off to a field and then cycle around the field and cycle back.
Oh God, it sounds like a riot.
So
Yeah.
bored.
But also like get on a bus and go to like a gig.
Oh, yeah.
Like
sort
when you were a
of.
bit older?
Yes.
Only if I lied. I mean, I wasn't allowed to do it. I ran away to see the Clash once.
Did you?
Yeah, when
Where
I
did
was-
you see them?
They were playing in Bath, and I was in Suffolk,
You went
which is the
from Suffolk?
other end of the country.
What did you tell your parents?
I told them I was going to school. And then me and my mate went to the train station, got on the train, and then we hitchhiked.
From Cambridge?
Kids used to hitchhike all the time. I mean, I literally can't believe I'm still alive, honestly. Hitchhiked from Cambridge to Bath, and then I called my mum, and from a phone booth, and beep, 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 hi, Mum. She said, hello. She said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Bath. She said, you're in the bath? I said, no, I'm in Bath. And she was like, what?
Yeah, why were you suddenly confessing?
Because I was in fucking Bath, and she knew at some point I was not going to come home from school. Also, I figured I was in Bath, she couldn't really
So
come
your
in.
plan was get there, then tell.
Get there, then tell them.
Was she furious?
Absolutely incandescent. And then I put
How
the
old
phone
were
down.
you?
I was like 15.
15,
Oh, that's all right.
And then, I mean, what a
only a
little
gig.
shitbag, honestly. And then Louise called her parents, who were the strictest people in the world, and her dad was like deputy chief of police, which we hadn't taken into consideration. And he was like, right, I'm putting an APB out on you.
No, you got picked up.
No, because we hid. We were like, shit, the feds.
I've not heard the details
We were
of
like
this story.
hiding, and we got to see the Clash, and we had a great time. We got backstage, we were hanging out, and we were like, this is it, we've reached. And then we went, oh yeah, this is really funny, because her dad's deputy chief of police, and we're 15, and they all went, what? Freaked out.
Amazing. Amazing.
Get them out of here now,
God.
because we were like underage, terrifying
Didn't
police.
you meet the Clash?
Yeah, that was, I wrote a little short about it. Sky, a few years ago, they did this series called Little Crackers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So I wrote one called, and it was for Christmas, meant to be Christmas stories. I wrote one called Better Than Christmas. And it was about when I was 15, and bumped into the Clash at King's Cross Station.
Oh,
And I had my New Musical Express with me that had, the front cover was the death of Ian Curtis from Joy
Oh,
Division.
goodness.
And so they all signed it for me, but I had cut Clash into my arm.
Oh, my God.
And I was going to get it, Indian inked.
Yes.
And God love him, Joe Strummer saw it, because it was the summer, so I was in my school uniform, but I'd short-sleeved. I think I pointed it out to him, actually. I would have just gone,
I would have, shown her.
look, I've done this, and I'm waiting for the Indian ink. And God love him, he went, don't you dare.
Oh.
He went, don't you dare, what are you doing? Cutting yourself,
Please don't
destroying
cut into
yourself.
your body, yeah.
Yeah. So I never did it. And it took a while to heal. And then what was interesting, like literally 5 years later, well, a bit longer than that, I worked with him. Because I did some Alex Cox films, and then he was in Straight to Hell.
Oh, of course he was, yeah.
And so then he became like a pal.
He was a lovely man.
He was a really sweet guy,
was a sweet
actually.
man.
I was going to say, I love that both of your Clash stories end with, and then we became great friends.
Yeah.
My best friend is Lauren, who's dad's Mick Jones. So, it's like the Clash are just family now. So
Yeah, it's
Good work,
strange.
guys.
But
Yeah.
actually, they were the first, that thing, so all the people, like, when you're a teenager, and I think especially, like, with punk, it was like, things were not as far away from each, like punk stars were literally like the people on the corner, do you know what I mean? They weren't so far out of reach, which
That's
I think
it.
was possibly part of the appeal of punk, because
Yeah.
it felt like it could be you, and it was you.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was an expression of us. We
That's
talked about
it.
this, didn't we?
Yeah.
And,
wasn't Duran. That's
no, that
slightly
was a different kind of pop star.
Also felt like you could meet them at King's Cross.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then if you stood in the
Yeah.
pub long enough, one of them
Yeah,
would
yeah.
come through. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think, when I came down to London, I quite quickly met lots of the people that I, had
my
on my
God.
walls at home. Paul, I had a massive poster of Paul Simon on my wall. Like, the first time I ever
Beautiful.
met Paul, I just thought I was going to pass out.
Well, he is one of the sexiest men.
He was.
ever,
I mean, he was
you know.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was ridiculously
When
beautiful.
I was at school, I was completely in love with Damon Albarn from Blur.
Oh, right.
And I used to, everyone else was like, Spice Girls had just come, so
Yeah.
everyone was dressing like Spice Girls in buffalo shoes and all that. And I dressed like Damon, and I bought like
Vibey.
his trainers, bought like the Kappa top, the jeans. Then I found out Justine Fisherman, his girlfriend, where she got her hair cut. So I went to, it was Andrew Joss on the bottom of Charlotte Street, and my mum took me there, and I got her haircut.
That haircut, the Elastica.
And then I made my mum take me to Portobello Road
Kensington Park
because I knew
Road.
that's where Damon lived, and I thought he'd see me and he'd be like, she's got
She's
great
a much
clothes.
better.
Oh my god, I love her hair. And then I would be like, I thought, oh, that was it. I walked up and down that road, my poor mum followed me.
Oh
Didn't
my
see him.
God, your mum's so sweet.
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you about fame, actually, because we have this strange thing between Mum and I, which is that I became famous when I was a kid, and then Mum became famous in her 50s. And we've sort of met at this point of sharing this very odd experience of being well known together. And for me, it's been really nice to actually, because I used to find it really difficult and like get really stressed out and be like, everyone's looking at me. And it's quite a lot when you're a teenager and you're not expecting
You don't really want everybody looking at you when you're
Yeah.
15. It's weird.
and you're not expecting it or hunting it or anything, and then it happens. But then Mum would be really like, oh my God, it's like not a big deal. I just get over it. 'Cause
No.
no, you would. Come
Love
on.
how
were
you
like,
paint your mum.
I know, I'm such a bitch, right?
No,
Really.
but she was just like, buck up, like, because
Yeah.
it's what's happening, and
I was like, it's part of your job.
it's part of your job, right?
If you want to do the job.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't want to do the job, don't do the job.
And I was
But
like, well,
it is
obviously I
part
want to
of the
do the job. So, you know, you were in this little thing. But then when Mum became famous, I was like, oh, here we go. Your turn. You're going to hate it. And she's all like, hey. Hey. And I'm like, how is she enjoying this so much? And I think it's because of the time of life that it's happened. It's like great gratitude and the true enjoyment of success.
Yeah.
And I'm now there at 39. But I was just wondering what your whole journey with being a famous person, the oddest thing that one can be.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I started to get well known sort of in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and that was because of doing television, because of doing the Harry Enfield show, working with French and Saunders. So, you know, I started to become sort of well known, and I didn't like it. It didn't sit easy with me, and I didn't like sort of going out, and because people come over and say hello and stuff, but then you find that the night's gone with your friends because you've spent most of the time being polite and talking with people and stuff. So basically, I just stopped going out. And so all my sort of socialising would happen either in my house or somebody else's house.
Did you feel pissed off about that you suddenly were hermetised? It had begun to hermetise you a bit.
Well, I suppose a bit, because I love people watching, you know, so it's sort of that went out the window. I couldn't sit in a cafe and just stare out the window without somebody back, ooh, Perry, you know what I mean, banging on the fucking window,
God, of course,
you know.
it was Perry time.
And yeah, Perry time was mad.
Yeah.
There was a time when there was like a load of kids outside my house.
Just waiting.
Just waiting. I said, I'm not Robbie Williams, fuck off. You know, I was really like, this is crazy.
Didn't
you know?
ask for this.
That's it. So yeah, it didn't sort of sit that well with me, and also it would make me quite nervous because you think you worry that people are going to think you're flash, or do you know what I mean? And I've always been someone that just chats to people, and then suddenly I had like a shyness.
I was thinking this about you. There's something about you that's quite shy, actually.
Yeah, and I am quite shy. And it's really weird for people to hear that, but it really sort of brought that on a lot. But now I'm older, so once I sort of gave up acting officially, I was sort of like, right, that's not my first job. It was sort of great because then I wasn't on the telly so much, and then new generation of kids come along,
and they
don't
seen
know
Perry.
who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Suddenly you can walk past schools again.
That's it, yeah, exactly.
I remember that. 22, I was like,
Yeah.
I can go past schools now.
Yeah, it's so strange. But now, I mean, this is, Andy, why I understand you being very sort of, oh, hi, you know, because I remember, well, I did an interview when I was in that period of time, and they said to me, the question then was, what's the best thing about fame? And at the time, I was hating it. So I thought, well, come on, what's good about it? And I said at that time, well, I suppose if it was late at night and I was really worried and scared, I could knock on a door and maybe 1 out of the 10 houses would know who I was. So they'd let me in. And that weird, it was just about women's safety, you know what I mean?
Sad answer.
It's kind of like tender answer.
I've thought that before.
But then blokes get offered out for fights,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
so they
what
have a different
to deal
danger.
with.
They have a different kind of danger. Pippa, your work, we haven't even spoken about what you
Oh,
do.
brilliant. She's a genius.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
No,
You are, Pippa.
You are.
No.
So you're a writer and a producer.
Yeah, I co-wrote on a show, but mostly producer.
A show, come tell us what you do. Tell us what you do.
No, well, I just produced Am I Being Unreasonable
Yeah.
with Daisy and Celine.
Massively
Which was
brilliant.
lovely.
So brilliant.
Yeah.
But I produced Kathy's show as well, which is the first thing we worked on.
Yeah, that was your first time being a producer,
Yes,
wasn't it?
that was my first producing job.
Because that short film I was talking about, the little short about
Right.
meeting the cash, Sky wanted more of that, so I turned it into a 4-parter.
Yeah.
Called Walking and Talking, and it was just basically about being 13, walking home from school with your mate, and that was it.
Yeah.
And Pippa produced it, and it was her first time producing.
Yeah.
And it was just glorious.
And was that something you had, like production? Was that what you wanted to do? Was be a producer? Or did you just sort of fall into different things?
When I left uni or finished my exams, I walked around loads of production companies in Soho asking just for work experience, and I got a job at Talkback or like.
It just looks like what a story.
But it was mad. They literally were looking. There was a show called Your Face or Mine with Jimmy Carr. Yeah, and I had to go on the streets and get people to let me take their photos, which would then be in the show, and they compare their.
Do you remember the premise of this show?
What was the premise?
It was
It's
horrible.
horrible.
It was horrible, and I was mortified. It was like your couple would come on, and then they'd be like, "This is a picture. Is this person more or less attractive than your girlfriend?" And you like win money. There was some incentive to be honest. I don't know what it was, but
It's interesting you say that because I did a lot of reading and watching Oprah kind of life lessons a couple of years ago, and I was in hell, and she really kind of saved me.
She really helped.
She really helped.
I love
and one
Oprah.
thing she said about the TV that she makes is that one day they were doing a problematic story, and she said, why are we doing this? Like, what is our intent? And I think for Mum and I, we've completely changed the way we want to make television. Like, that cruelness. I can't be part of things like that in television.
And also, it's interesting because I started a new job in lockdown, and I realised they were really lovely, and they gave me. I sort of run a comedy or comedy drama slate on my own.
Yes.
Within the company, and they're really lovely about it. But I was able to make decisions about who I work with, and what shows I wanted to try and develop without sort of having pressure. Yeah. And it was the same thing. It was like, actually, I just want to make shows that I feel really passionate about and stories I want to tell or be part of, and not like make things that I'm not comfortable with.
Is that important for you, Pippa, to like, feel good about what you do? Yeah.
And also make sure that you're giving like an opportunity to people that maybe historically haven't had as much of an opportunity.
But also, Pippa's got really good taste. You know, and I think that really helps, you know what I mean, with the work, you know, because her taste is pretty impeccable when it comes to scripts and Jack
I
and
don't like
Freddie.
talking about myself.
Which is
I can tell.
Which is why I'm doing the talking.
I can tell, but that's why you do what you do, and you're not in front of the camera.
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
yeah.
We're all different.
I mean, Pippa, it's extraordinary because, you know, you're quite shy. Do you know what I mean? She's great fun and everything, and it was sort of like, when I was invited to do this, I thought I'd love Pippa to do this, but I don't know whether she would. But no, it was good that you said yes.
Glad that you came. We're really, really glad that you came, honestly, because for us it's lovely to have. To watch other people in their relationships, and it tells us something about you, Kath, and then we meet this new person, and this is what happens naturally in our lives anyway.
Yeah.
We always have dinner parties,
Yeah.
and people always bring people with them. That's why we wanted to do this podcast,
Yeah.
because it's just an extension of what we do anyway.
Yeah.
We couldn't really, people say, you should do a podcast, and we kept coming with these ideas. It was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Weird. You know what I mean? and then we went, why don't we just do what we always do?
Have people around.
Just have people around and have some nice food and nice drink and a little chat.
There is something that is, I guess, relatively new, but probably not even really anymore, which is seeing you as a broadcaster
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Which I love. No, I love because a lot of people. I wish I could name exactly who I'm talking about, but I won't. A lot of people think that making TV is quite easy.
Or that broadcasting is
Or the
easy.
broadcasting's easy, and it's really not. But I've watched, I think every documentary you've done for Channel 4, loved all of them, and loved everything that you've been talking about. But also watched you blossom into this fantastic broadcaster. Do you see yourself like that at all?
No.
Well, do you think she's a really good broadcaster?
Yeah, I love them.
I just think I'm a bit self-obsessed, and it's allowed me to talk about myself like non-fucking stop for about 5 years. No, it's really weird though, because this sounds really fucking arrogant, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but I remember years ago when I decided to stop acting, and I'd always directed, I'd always directed plays and stuff, so it wasn't like I was suddenly going into directing play. It was something I sort of felt I trained in, much like the acting, Look, I know when I get older, I've got my own personality to rely on.
Right.
And that will be how I'll make money when I'm older.
Because of who you are.
And that's what's happening.
Do you know why you can call yourself a broadcaster, Kathy? Because it's about emotional honesty.
Oh, right,
and you are
okay.
a really emotionally honest human being. It's why I really like you. Even before we've actually
darling.
probably sat down and had a conversation, I was like, I fucking love that woman. She's excellent. And I really
Likewise.
enjoyed doing your podcast. I'm really glad you're here and why we wanted you to come here, because you've got that proper thing going on. Do you know what I mean? And it's a thing that tribally I'm really attracted to, because I need it.
Yeah.
Well, if I don't
Well,
have
that
that,
seems to be a great change that's happened in the last 10 years or so, isn't it? It's sort of emotional development. You know what I mean? That understanding that emotional intelligence is important and worthy, and also, the mental health thing. The fact that people will talk about it now. Do you know what I mean? And I do think it's important. And I think it's because like I said earlier, when I grew up, as I got older, I felt guilty that my brothers didn't get any counselling as kids. It had nothing to do with me, but I felt bad on their behalf. Once it was all clicking into place, what they actually fucking went through. And I think that's why I've always sort of spoken out, like, for men as well, you know. I love my ladies, of course I do. I'm a proper sister, I'm a proper feminist. But it doesn't mean to say that...
That's not to the exclusion of loving men. Loving women,
Exactly.
it's about us all having the same chance and the same opportunities, not more or less.
That's
and loving
it.
one doesn't mean that you don't love the other.
That's what's fucked up at the moment.
Yes.
Because it's this, you've got to either be one thing or the other. You can't, and it's bollocks. And it's that old divisive thing that's put out by the people with the money and the media and the power. So we ignore who's the root of the problem, our governments and all that.
While we're fucking bickering
Exactly.
about language.
Yes.
I don't give a shit who's in the toilet. I really, really don't. Just have a pee, get out. Who gives a fuck? It's a bathroom.
Who
Do you know
does
what
care?
I mean? Just,
Like,
no,
I
but,
don't- the amount of people
why is
that
this
do
even a
is
fucking
tiny.
conversation?
Yeah.
I can't believe there were these endless articles about the fucking toilet.
Yeah, it's a complete distraction from
Meanwhile-
Brexit.
Exactly.
It's a distraction from
Meanwhile, the
Selling
whole
the
country
the
is
NHS.
poverty
dying.
that's going on and the cost of living crisis, and it's always
Drives me nuts.
And I said this to Danny Dyer on our podcast the other day about, there's a great clip, I don't know if you've ever seen it, of the old football manager Brian Clough.
I remember him.
And this is from like the late 80s or whatever. And he says, no, I'll tell you, because I think the conversation was about football hooliganism or something was going on. And he went, no, I'll tell you who the culprits of this country are. It's Rupert Murdoch and Robert Maxwell. No. They're the ones that are behind the divide. You know what I mean? And it's very, very sinister. And we need to see this and we need to understand.
People like that were trying to tell us and nobody was listening. People are still trying to tell us and people are still not listening.
There was a weird period where I think that maybe it was just like one GQ cover, but it's like you with maybe Liam Gallagher in a limo, and you're in a white t-shirt and a straight leather jacket. It's 501s. It's a banging outfit, and you're in a car.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that was Ray Winston.
Okay, you're with Ray Winston.
That's a Rankin photo.
Rankin, that was it. It's a vibey picture, and but it's really. I was like, oh, 1997, or it's like that period of time.
That period.
So, did you ever feel your kind of that success that you were riding at that time? Did it get a bit immersed in all that sort of like Great Britannia, cool Britannia, Tony Blair?
Sort of. It's sort of. I was invited to be immersed in all that, but I said no.
Declined. Thank you.
Yeah,
Respecting, polite decline.
I didn't go to the famous party at Downing Street. I didn't. I was invited to Number 10. I didn't, and Buckingham Palace and all that, and I didn't do any of it. And what's really fucking weird about me, who has had such a sort of hedonistic existence here and there, you know, I've loved sort of, really glad that I used to love getting pissed and love just going out and being fucking nuts. But I decided to stop drinking in the 90s when it was like the party decade where I was getting invited to all the groovy things. And I just was too shy, really. So I would just be like, no, I'm going to stay in, you know, I'm a pothead. So it's like, no, I've got me weed. I don't really need to do all that.
And what do you think now? Are you, like, you're not in any way regretting those decisions?
No, I mean, you look back and think, well, there was quite a few lovely men that were after me at the time. You know, when we did Harry Enfield and Chums, it was sort of like a big thing. That was like the big comedy programme, you know.
It was the big everything programme.
The big everything. And so many people wanted to come to the studio, because we did a lot of it in front of a studio audience and all that business. I would just leave the dressing room and go to the car and go home. My best fun times were before getting well known. Yeah. It was sort of the 80s.
There's something about show-offy people, which we three are. You clearly are not, Pippa. You're not, but you're a listener and a watcher.
Can I just say, though, Pippa is not a show-offy person. She's very sort of together and, you know, and she likes being behind the scenes. Her wedding day, this one, turned up on a horse.
Can I tell you why? Because I was so self-conscious about the idea of like just everyone looking at you. And I knew my mum was going to walk me whatever bit of it we were going to walk. But I thought, if I have a horse, firstly, everyone must be fucking laughing at the horse. And it's like, they'll be looking at that and talking about that, and it won't be about me. And also, it would be funny. And I just thought...
And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
In a wedding dress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gucci heels. On side saddle. I'm
going to give that a round of applause.
That's how you get married as an introvert.
So I just wanted to say, though, the thing about a lot of show-offy people, and me included, you two definitely, is that we're also shy. And I know we've said this a couple of times.
So
but it's a weird, like, dynamic, and it's really hard to explain to people. It's a funny duality.
Yes.
That I think people don't really understand about show-offy people. And I think a lot of people who do the work that us three do are like that. I mean, do you notice it about people that you work with?
Yeah,
Pippa?
it's interesting. She won't mind me saying this, but Daisy, for example, at the BAFTAs.
Daisy May Cooper,
like, had this extraordinary, like, Britney Spears from the Lucky video outfit made.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
And she turned up, she looked incredible.
Vibe.
She was like amazing, going and saying hi, signing autographs. Had this ceremony, and then afterwards she just couldn't stand being in the room with so many people, and just left. But the best bit of it for her was just getting ready, you know, and not doing
and
the actual
vision
thing.
of it and inhabiting this moment. And I think there's something about holding court, which I like, which is very different to a one-on-one intimacy where people are looking you in the eye and there's a different thing expected of you. I've got loads of things to impart, but that doesn't mean I don't feel shy. Like, I'm really bad. We've had this conversation. I'm really bad at going on a date.
Oh, yeah, she's terrified of dating.
Terrifying.
Of dating.
What is that?
I mean, she loves a date. She's really good at a date. She loves to play pool.
Just needs activity. Just needs a pool table.
And I'm just like,
because you don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say. I feel like they're not going to like me.
And is that because of the no, is it because of the overriding thing of like, this is about whether we like each other?
Yeah, I think so. And I think they're not going to like me.
Like sexual attraction.
Yeah, and I think they're not going to like me. They're not going to fancy me. They're not going to like me. I mean, I should say this one. I have been with my partner for about 27 years.
So you've been out of the game for a minute.
I haven't had to go on a date, but I'm still, the idea of it still sends me into a total panic. Like,
how do you feel about dating and romantic love?
Oh God, no. That's all sort of way in my history now, and which I'm sort of glad about. You know, you sort of look back on things and you think, oh, maybe I should have done this, but you sort of realise everything is your own choice. Do you know what I mean? So I look back and I'm quite proud of the choices that I made. And I do, you know, it's a shame I didn't meet that person, you know, that I absolutely wanted to share my life with. That never really happened. I mean, I did meet people I wanted to, but then they didn't with me, or vice versa. Do you know what I mean? It never ever sort of gelled.
Twain.
Yeah. And I do wonder if it's just because I've always been quite, it's sort of weird, I've always been quite happy on my own. I'm very, I think it does go back from when I was a little kid, because I did spend a lot of time on my own and I was happy to sort of do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I don't really, like I've often said, haven't I, Pippa, that I don't really know what loneliness is, because I don't really sort of feel lonely. Do you know what I mean?
And don't fear it.
No, I fear other people.
Yeah, the other side.
Like suddenly, you know, having to, I've got to sort of adjust around to other people now, you know.
I think people are sometimes even scared to say that they like being
alone
in their own company.
Yeah.
I really like my own company. I get well into it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes if Ed's going to his mum's for the weekend, it's the best feeling in the world. You know, you can get the flat to yourself.
Will you be all right? And you're like, aha.
Yeah, I'll be fine. But I lived on my own for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Oh, because you weren't with Ed when you met Kathy?
No.
Okay.
So I used to love that feeling on a Friday, just shutting the door.
Do you remember what it was like when Pippa met Ed?
Oh my God! Well, she's known Ed for a long time because Ed is the brother of the best friend she's had since uni.
Joe. Yeah.
So Pippa.
Plot twist! Oh, wow.
Well, this is great actually, and I did a speech at Pippa and Ed's wedding, which wasn't written down. I just sort of, you know. So it's basically very similar.
Was it organised though? You were invited to.
Oh yeah.
You didn't just get up and go, I'd like to say a few words.
Piss off, mums, piss off, you know.
I think I should speak.
Well, no, it was quite extraordinary actually, because Pippa started to come over and, I'd hear it. You know, there was a couple of boyfriends she talked about, and I'd say, these people just sound fucking horrible. What are you doing with these ghastly fucking blokes, you know? Please know your worth, you know what I mean? Anyway, and then one night she was over and we were having a bit of dinner. What would we'd watch American Pop Idol.
Kathy I'd go around, she'd like, come around and watch American Idol with me, and then you'd watch it, and then as soon as the first note came out, no, she'd fast forward. You never got to see the song. She was like, no, I don't like that one.
Don't like it. Shit.
What are we watching? We're just watching the VT bits. And then it was like, and then if there was an old person in the audience went, oh, she's like, just because they're old doesn't mean they're not a cunt. And then you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm watching now.
But anyway, so Pippa was round, we were chatting. And then I remember Pippa just saying to me, so, she said, there's this guy, Ed. And I was like, right. And she said, it's Joe's brother. And she went, oh, Kathy, I've loved him since I was 19. I said, I've never heard you talk about this guy. And she said, I saw him the other night and she was like all discombobulated because he'd said to her, oh, we should go out for a drink sometime. And she, being Pippa, just went, you know, that's never going to happen or whatever, you know, made a joke of it and all that business. And I went, okay. I said, just send him a text now And she went, oh, no, I can't. She went bright red at the thought of it. And I went, no, just say, look, Ed, it was really lovely to see you. Of course, I'd love to have a drink with you. So I'm a bit full on with work, so there's the get out, but, you know, maybe we'll be in touch, you know what I mean? So she was happy with the message. Do you know what I mean? She was happy with the message. Yeah. As was I.
Everyone was happy.
We were very happy. So, and I even said to her, look, and don't stress. If you don't hear from him for a couple of days, don't stress, because you've made it very relaxed in the message.
I'm quite busy myself.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Really
Exactly.
good. That's actually bloody good text writing, Kathy.
Very good,
Oh,
Kathy.
yeah.
5 minutes later, the message came back, and I never forget it. It was one of the best fucking messages. To let a girl know, yes, I do like you. He put anytime, any place, anywhere, Pippa Brown. And I went, Pippa!
Ed, go on, Ed.
He likes you, like you like him.
Any place,
Honestly,
anywhere.
that makes me want to shed a tear. Like,
You're still going red.
it's like,
But wasn't
you
it
married
amazing?
him. You married
And
him.
dear Rita, I married him.
Oh, God. A bit of bloody honesty, right?
That's
Yeah,
And how long have you
and
been
he's a
married?
good guy.
Right, you need to, like, make that TV show. That is, like, the best story ever.
That is a good story.
good story.
Shall
I
we
can't
give it-
think of a better story to end lunch with.
Yes, and a
actually.
little toast. We have a little toast.
A little toast to
Ed.
Excuse me.
to Ed. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go on,
yeah.
Ed.
Kathy for the text.
To
And
Kathy,
excellent
who
texting.
knew? Excellent
Pippa, it's
texter.
so lovely to meet
Thank
you.
you so much
Thank
for that
you for
meal.
coming.
This was a complete
This
delight.
has been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely delicious.
Can I take some of that home in
yeah,
a
man.
doggy bag?
We
Do
do
you know what I've
Tupperware.
got? I've got actual Tupperwares. That I've
Oh
bought
my
for people.
God.
Everybody take some. Well, you know, I didn't know I could be more in love with Kathy Burke than I already am. And I loved Pippa.
Oh yeah, Pippa was great.
Their relationship's really lovely, isn't it? Because you can see kind of what they give each other. Like Kathy, like when we started to try to get Pippa to talk about herself, and she went really shy,
Right.
and sort of almost didn't want to. And so Kathy was like, "I'm going to do it for her because this is what you need to know about her."
Yeah.
And then I realised that Pippa gives Kathy a sort of different kind of safety. She sees Kathy she sees that little 12-year-old knocking on people's doors asking for
Oh
dinner.
my God.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
too funny. I was
Oh
just
my
like,
goodness.
the thing is that I was like, I see it, I believe it, I know who you are now.
Yeah, and I loved meeting Pippa. I'm slightly obsessed with Ed.
The Ed story. I'm so happy
Anytime,
I asked.
any place, anywhere, Pippa Brown. Oh my God.
I was like-
it's like a Hugh Grant movie. Oh, and she'd love to see you.
I was like, good twist. Seriously,
Good
they told us
twist.
that story like a broadcaster
twist.
and a TV producer.
twist.
We were
Plot
like
twist.
gripped. I was
Plot
like,
twist.
then what happened?
Yeah.
That was beautiful. And also to be here with the doors open, to show everyone around the garden and the flowers.
And they met the neighbours on the way
Oh,
out.
Kathy met the neighbours. It's more than just inviting someone around to lunch. It's like,
It's our home.
come in.
Yeah. Our world, our home.
Come in.
Nice. Cheers to that.
Come on in.
Come on in.